Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, December 29th, 2025. We'll be doing a masculine, feminine, non binary energy update today. We're going to be starting in the headspace of the masculine. We are going to be using the Tarot of the Divine today for the headspace of masculine. Can I get 3 cards for masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to? We already have a transverse card out. Can I get 2 more, please? 1 more and a third, please. Thank you. What do we have going through right now? First card we're drawing for masculine headspace is 5 of Wands in its transverse in combination with our moon card in its upright and in combination with our high priestess in its reversal. Let's talk a little bit about this energy. I keep on getting the same message coming through when I read for masculine. Being able to articulate the emotions is only half the battle. Being able to articulate on the emotions is only half the battle, right? The understanding and the recognition that when counterpart wants us to be open about our emotions, it's not the space by which we work through the emotions. We don't work our emotions out on each other. We work through our emotions so we can communicate emotions to one another. I keep on just hearing through, to, not through, to, not through. Because often what happens is when we feel things that are unprocessed, right? When we're working through unprocessed feelings, then the experience that another person has in terms of experiencing them makes it feel like it's their responsibility to have to navigate the complication of the emotions, right? That's often why we feel like those experiences, the modality by which we work through the confusion of our emotions, it's not the space by which we energetically we don't share our confusion, right? Because and we can talk about the confusion, right? We can talk about the confusion in the space of aspiring and desiring and having that manifestation goal, right? But the modality by which we have emotions but we don't know what to do about them often is the amplification of understanding how that can sometimes feel like it creates blind partnership dynamics, right? There's nothing more. It's like, what does it feel like to feel trapped in a confusing relationship? It's the relationship by which one feels that there's a lot of emotions, but very little direction, right? That is the shape of trauma. It's the feeling of being lost in a relationship. And that's why we do the work prior to building into connection, to be able to articulate to each other what that path work is, or what the aspiration is in relationality to what it is that we aspire to have with one another. Because the modality by which, right, when we consider a relationship in the perception that we act as each other's guides, right? What a transformational moment that we find as it relates to the way that we build into healthy partnership, right? Because we don't look to the relationship as the aspiration point, right? And this is what we talk about with the limitation, right? It's not enough to say, I want a healthy relationship. You can't have a healthy relationship if you don't have healthy direction. Because if your only aspiration is to enter relationship and that's it, then once you enter relationship, you're lost there, right? Like you're lost, you're like, okay, now what, right? It's a lot of that now what energy that happens. So the ability to have those aspirational conversations, I feel like this is a lot of the masculine, that bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels aligned to, having the ability to find the courage to speak towards their dreams. Because when we combine, right, like what is the profound combination that we find in healthy relationship? It's the ability to effectively combine, right, the aspiration of partnership, right, the desire for one, and also with the direction of what one wants to do with it. Right? And this is what we talk about. This is how we heal from coveting mindset, right? Relationship. I want one, but why? I just want one, but why? I just want one, but why? Right? Like it's understanding the why. It's the ability to understand what one wants to do within the relationship that makes the relationship sacred, right? It's the observation. It's not just the space by which one articulates that one wants it, but it's the identification point of what one wants to do with it, right? Think about relationship like a home, right? Or a residence, right? I want one. Why? Because it feels safe. Yeah, but now that's not necessarily true, right? The modality by which we articulate what happens inside or within it creates the context of how we feel as we inhabit it. So I feel like there's a lot of the energy of masculine that is working on healthy direction sense. And healthy direction sense is the gift that we bring. There's no greater gift that we bring to partnership than healthy direction, because it's the modality by which we articulate to another the desire to be in connection with oneself or with another, but also the aspiration and the articulation of where you aspire to go in the context of the relationship. This brings us to feminine energy. Can I get 3 cards for feminine energy? And for feminine energy's headspace right now, we're going to be using the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. 3 cards, please. They came out all in a little block, quick little block, all coming out together, very stuck together. Ace of Wands in its upright. This is really important. We're going to talk about this. Okay, we've got Ace of Wands in its upright. We've got Eight of Wands in its reversal. And we've got King of Cups in its upright. Now, the reason I say this is really important is if you've been following along, yesterday's tarot spread was absolutely wild. Yesterday's tarot spread was absolutely wild, specifically and particularly because not only did we have all 4 king cards coming out in the spread. We had all 4 king cards coming out, but we also had this combination. We had these 2 cards in direct combination with each other. We were talking about a new 9 energy. This is a new 9. And what's interesting about it, though, is in yesterday's spread, they were reversed. In yesterday's spread, it was the 8 of Wands that was in its upright with the Ace of Wands in its reversal. Here we have them in the opposite modality. So what does that effectively mean? It's a lot of that. And I want to describe this. And the reason I keep on calling this a new 9 is because the 9 of Wands, right? The 9 of Wands is all about having one's guard up. The 9 of Wands is like all about seeking shelter, right? And continuing the conversation that we just had with masculine energy, right? A healthy relationship is not a safe space unless you do the work to make it one, right? A healthy relationship is not a safe space unless one does the work to make it one. It can feel like, this is why relationships can feel like war zones, right? It can create those modalities by which we feel a lot of volatility. If we enter a relationship volatile, there's no way you can enter a relationship volatile and expect to find peace there, right? You don't go, oh, I'm volatile now, but if I enter a relationship, I'm going to be peaceful. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's not how it works, right? The peace that we work to create with each other is working through our own energetic frustration, right? It's those modalities or those experiences by which we work through a lot of those difficulty points. And so we see that this is a lot of the energy of feminine that feels really frustrated, because what is this feminine we see doing? Again, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. The greatest gift that counterpart can provide into a relationship is the peace that they find within that becomes the peace that they share upon without, right? The modality by which we don't look to each other to be each other's peace. We actively work to create it for one another, right? It's hard. It's perpetual. It's constant. And so for a lot of the energy doing that work, This is a lot of the feminine working through those experiences of getting infuriated, right? There's nothing more ridiculous than when energy gets frustrated, that feminine energy is not more vulnerable, because vulnerability is not a switch, right? You don't go like, okay, oh yeah, you're right. Okay, you want some vulnerability. Oh, there we go. Now I'm vulnerable. The modality by which we find ourselves vulnerable is something that happens through the space of being able to feel energetic safety. And we feel safe when we feel that another person takes us into consideration, right? The space of consideration creates the sense of vulnerability, because when another healthy relationship is not a possessive space. It's not the space by which one person says, I have you or you have me. You can be halved by somebody in the state of being halved, which is a halved in terms of HALF, in the state of being halved, right? The halved that comes in being halved, the modality by which another person is not in the capacity to energetically hold the self, right? The modality by which we understand that the healthy relationship does not have us. It holds us. It holds all of us. It's able to effectively articulate and hold everything that is a part of us. And that doesn't mean that things are energetically perfect. But the more that the feminine feels like they are held in the modality of the relationship, right, is more in the context by which the feminine is able to move into their vulnerability state, right? You can't be vulnerable unless you feel like it is safe to be held. So we see that a lot of the energy of the feminine is healing from trauma by which someone wasn't holding them right, right? And then getting angry at them for not being vulnerable. Make it make sense, right? You can't. It's an impossible request. You can't not be in a space where another person is not holding you properly, and then somebody saying, why aren't you being more vulnerable, right? It creates that energetic tension in the feminine that feels like the vulnerability, that feels more performative rather than being true vulnerability, specifically because of the tension that happens in the state of, again, trying to meet the expectation of vulnerability with someone who is not holding you properly. Feels like an energetic violation, because it's a violation to the self in relationality to the fact that it's hard to allow oneself to find the space by which one is able to embody the compassion. So we see that is a lot of the feminine utilizing those modalities of effectively having those type of conversations with counterpart to be able to facilitate and heal healthy connection. And that could be either dealing or remembering experiences from the past by which those circumstances were arriving, or something that they themselves navigated, or simultaneously working in the context of trying to do that work in relationality to healthy present partnership. Now, this brings us to non-binary energy. We'll be utilizing the Aquarian Tarot for the headspace of non-binary. 3 cards, please. We've got 2 cantilevered and 1 straight. So we've got the 9 of Cups cantilevered. The Tower card in its reversal, which I think is really important because I'll have to check, but I'm almost 100% certain that card was there the last time we did this reading in the same place. And the 5 of Cups in its upright. We keep on drawing the same cards for non-binary energy. This is how do I describe this? There's a lot of non-binary energy that's had to let go of. They've had to let go of energy that I keep wondering the need to energetically let go. Like, and I feel like this is, I can hear the non-binary energy almost articulating this to another, like the space by which we let energy go, not because we ourselves are hard to hold, but the space by which another person hurts us in the context of us trying to hold them is what I keep on seeing. This is a lot of energy working through the experience of what it actually means when we talk about what is hard to hold, because what we effectively identify or recognize in relationality to those modalities or experiences is the difference. I keep wondering, the difference in terms of being hard to hold is the energy that often feels the force or the weight of others' projections in the context of the self or in the context of one's own energetic journey, right? Because the modality of the state, the who we are does not hurt anyone so long as we're living with energetic intention, right? The modality by which we do our best in relationality to be in the state of healthy intention is the recognition of what is in our capacity to change and what is outside of our capacity in relationality to what we have to accept. And so what we effectively see for a lot of that energy is having to work through the space that there is energy that cares for others and they build it upon proximity, right? I just keep on hearing energy going, I care about that person, but they stay over there. I care about that person, but they stay over there. I care about that person, but they stay over there. That the extension of our love does not need to dissipate or go away in the context. This is how we heal, right? The context of our love doesn't have to go anywhere. But the identification of the proximity by which we hold the things we care about helps us understand what feels like it is energetically safe to be in our proximity versus something that needs to be held at a further off distance, right? It's the modality by which we build. I keep on hearing they're navigating the energetic perimeter of their love. And the perimeter of the love is the understanding. And it's continuation of the conversation of vulnerability that we see that was happening in the other collective energies. The understanding that our love can cross very large expanses. Right? That's a nice thing about love, right? Right? You don't need to, look, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. The quality, notice the quality and nature of the love that does not change whether the love is here or whether the love is over here. It's very nice like that. It goes like that. So we see that for a lot of the energy doing that work, that ability of understanding or recognizing or feeling that valuation point, that is the energy that effectively utilizes that work in order to heal from trauma, right? We don't have to let go of anything. We don't have to let go of anything. We don't have to let go of anything. We just have to recognize where we hold it, right? We have to recognize the proximity by which we keep things towards us. And the more that we understand ourselves, right? The more that we hold ourselves preciously. The ability to hold ourselves preciously helps us perceive proximity. Helps us with situations and circumstances based upon proximity, right? And what is often the journey? I feel like what is the journey that often a lot of the non-binary energy experiences articulates? I cared about that person. The mistake was holding them too closely, right? This is how our empathy effectively extends, right? It's the modality by which we work towards, what we feel is energetically possible versus what we feel is, and I keep on hearing, there's a little bit, I got to point this out, there's an over-internalization here, right? There's a bit of an over-internalization because even in the space by which I'm reading for this, I see that that's a qualification in terms of having, I keep on hearing, it's not a miscalculation to assume that you can hold someone closely, because the assumption, you always want to aspire to desire that you can hold someone closely. Often the modality by which you recognize and realize cannot can feel heartbreaking. It can feel energetically devastating, but I see that that's the energy that builds into relationships very, very slowly, specifically and particularly for the reasons that we are effectively articulating and describing. Moving back towards masculine energy, we're going to be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck for the heart space of masculine right now. 3 cards, please. 1, 2, 3. 2 cantilevered, 1 straight. So again, very similar connection to the non-binary energy that we just drew for. We've got the Judgment card in its reversal. We've got the 10 of Wands cantilevered. And we've got the 10 of Pentacles cantilevered. Whew. Okay, let's talk about it here. So what we're effectively identifying in relationality to masculine heart space, and we like to see the double 10 energy that is appearing there, because the double 10 energy, speaks to us, and I like this too, because the 10 of Wands in its reversal with the 10 of Pentacles in its upright often speaks towards it speaks towards and I want to describe this. There's a lot of energy around masculine, and we can often experience this with Neptune and Saturn in retrograde. Like, if you are looking back on a past version of self and you wish you could grab that person and you wish you could say things to that person, congratulations, right? Inner child healing. I'm just going to have to keep on saying this to masculine energy. Inner child healing is not trying to heal the person that you were when you were 3. Inner child healing is healing from the person you were when you thought you knew everything. Inner child healing is healing from the person you were when you thought you knew everything, right? Because that's often what we see. That's often what we see in the context of an inner child, right? That's the issue. That is a failure point in child mindset. The difficulty and hurdle that we often experience when it comes towards, right? What is child energy? Child energy in any context, the best way to describe it is the observation of one believing that one knows everything. That is the unhealed inner child. Like, I did it. I'm done now. I don't need to do anything. Dun, dun, dun. Like, it's the modality by which you effectively, it's like, okay, yeah, whoa, man, there they go. There goes that person who thought they knew everything, destroying everything in their path. Look at that. Oh, like, like there they go, thinking they know everything. Oh no, right? It's a lot of that type of energy that we see there. It's hard. It's painful. And often in the modality and the experience by which we recognize it, and understanding that is the quality by which wisdom comes in, it's the ability to effectively allow, and that's the context of the beauty of those experiences, right? Because what is the sound? What is the song you will hear when you're healing? I'm doing it again. Right? Like, that's the sound you'll heal when you'll heal. That's the sound you'll hear. You'll heal. That's the sound you'll heal when you're healing. I'm doing it again. Right? The modality or the experience by which we catch ourselves, right? The journey by which, right, we energetically catch ourselves in our own energetic tendencies, and the ability to observe them, the ability to recognize them, helps us feel energetically fortified in relationality to what it is that we're trying to do in a better way. And so I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy, that observation, right? That observation and being able to ascertain. I would not be surprised right now if there's some masculine energy catching themselves in the moment of about to self-sabotage. Right? Those modalities or experiences by which we realize, and that's what we talk about when we talk about self-sabotaging, like walking right into the direction of something that you actively healed from, right? The modality, like how sweet it is, how tempting it can be, because it feels like comfortability, right? And the modality by which we recognize and we ascertain and we stop ourselves before we have to repeat energetic cycles all over again. Those modalities and experiences, that is the sound of our profound healing. It's the observation and the recognition point in relationality to what it is that we're articulating, that we're trying to do, but not just what it is that we're articulating and trying to do, right? The ability to effectively navigate and do something in a way that allows us to bring profound change towards us is often, the funny thing about a manifestation goal is often not what you start doing, it's what you stop doing. So I see that that's a lot of the energy that's working into the pathwork of accountability. And the accountability starts with catching oneself in one's own unhealthy tendencies, right? What is pulling one further away from the from the manifestation goal rather than closer towards it. And so I see even now with a lot of that energy and a lot of those relationships, and it's interesting too, because you heard how I started getting kind of choked up. It was like a blockage in the heart space, right? That's what happens. Like that's what happens when we start going back into those unhealthy cycles, right? We start blocking our heart space again. Continuing, and this is moving us back towards feminine. 3 cards for feminine. We'll be utilizing the Aquarian Tarot for the heart space of feminine right now. 2 cantilevered, 1 straight. We've got a lot of similarity that's happening right now in these cards. We've got the Emperor card. We've got the King of Cups. And we've got the Hierophant. In its reversal. That is some really, really intense energy in the feminine heart space. And let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing. And this is the conversation. This is what happens with feminine energy in relationality to not being held properly, right? Because feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. When feminine energy is not energetically held right, they feel the need of having to embody masculine energy, right? It's the modality by which the feminine needs to kind of move into the modality of feeling that sense of having to be, like I keep on hearing, having to overly compensate for not being held by having to overly embody into masculine. And the thing about that we effectively see is for a lot of the energy, it's the modality of the difference. And this is what we talk about being forced, right? Because forced is not moving into the energetic alignment of the self that one desires to be within, right? The modality by which, and here's the thing about it, the modality of our energy, all of our energy is unique. And the modality and the experience by which we find the energetic flow state, by which we feel that we inhabit, that feels right for us, right? That feels true for us, that feels authentic for us. That is something that is effectively the what moves us towards our highest self or our best self. It's the observation of where we feel that comfortability point. But often what happens in the context of navigating trauma, right? Trauma turns you into things that you don't aspire to be. Trauma makes you have to occupy roles that you would rather not embody. Trauma is often the articulation of having to do something, not because one desires to, right? Not because one desires to, Mars and Venus, but because one feels like one has to, right? It's the observation or the recognition of effectively identifying or articulating upon something in such a way that allows the observation of being able to build into the context of the understanding or working through the capacity by which we don't feel energetically inclined. And what happens? What happens when we have to assume roles that we don't aspire to assume? We become bitter, right? The bitterness that sets in a modality by which you're not effectively moving into the context of effectively aspiring or being like moving towards one's inclination, but rather the modality by which one feels like one has to step into something in order to energetically facilitate. So we see that for a lot of the feminine, working through that is effectively, in a way, helping the feminine energy heal their relationship to masculine energy, because it's the energy of the feminine that is articulating upon the balance point in relationality to the vulnerability that counterpart might aspire to find within them versus what they can realistically bring out upon themselves. Because in the modality by which, right, the modality by which we feel the vulnerability is the space by which we feel energetically safe to shed our shields. So the modality by which I keep on hearing, this is a lot of the feminine working through shield shedding, which is the observation of effectively, and this is often why feminine gets like, this is why feminine gets upset when someone's like, why are you like that with them but not with me? Like, why do they get that version of you and why don't I get this version of you? And this is the energy that we often see with feminine. Have you created a space by which I feel safe to be able to embody the qualities and characteristics of the space by which one can shed the shield? Because that modality is not something, you can't do it. Like, you cannot, and this is what we get into, right? This is the Cancerian journey. This is the Cancerian journey of Jupiter and Cancer, right? Just shed that shield. Can't shed the shield. Why? Because if you tell me to shed the shield, there'll be a shield behind the shield, right? The shedding of the shield is the energetic illusion, because if we don't feel like we can shed the shield, even when we shed the shield, we're not really shedding the shield, right? There's a shield behind the shield, as if the ego, right? As if the sense of protection is something that one could easily remove away. It's something that happens. It happens in the space by which another person feels energetically in a space by which they feel that sense of security and stability in order to do so. So we've got a lot of that energy there, and I keep on getting, even in the space of navigating through that, it's a conversation, and I keep on seeing this. It's not the conversation that feminine needs to aspire or desire to counterpart. It's the feminine understanding, the observation between discernment and energetic work, right? It's the observation of effectively the feminine doing their portion, right? That's the feminine that understands that in healthy connection, it's always going to feel difficult, right? It's always going to feel difficult to be able to effectively identify or recognize what it feels like to move into that space of vulnerability. But even in the context by which they're moving into that vulnerability, we see that that's a lot of the energy of the feminine that is being able to articulate or amplify what their energetic intention is. So I feel like that's a lot of the feminine that's working towards articulating more upon what it is that they seek from counterpart in order for those energetic needs to be met. This brings us to the non-binary energy. Can I get 3 cards, please? And we'll be utilizing the Tarot of the Divine for the heart space of non-binary. If I can find it. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Okay. We've got the Magician in its upright. We've got the King of Swords in its upright. And we've got the 9 of Cups in its upright. So we've got a lot of 9 energy. We've got a lot of 9 energy today on the table. We've got a lot of 9 and we've got a lot of 10. And that speaks to us of pathwork, of culmination. Now, the culmination that we effectively see that is occurring in these energetic frequencies, and especially for non-binary energy, this is working deeper into the context of, I keep on getting this, the healthy relationship that is not built upon the fantasy of the person, but on the reality of the experience. And this is what we effectively get. This is energy that has been hurt by others' fantasies of them, right? And that's what we see with the Magician, with the King of Swords in its reversal. The space by which another person approaches us with their fantasy. And this is why we have to understand that it's not enough. This is why a manifestation is not a fantasy, right? Because here's the thing with fantasy. In the headspace, everything's beautiful, right? Really hard to imagine pain up here. Go ahead, try to imagine pain up there. Bet it doesn't really hurt. Okay, here's the modality of it, right? The agony and the ecstasy in a fantasy is mostly ecstasy. even in the space by which there's agony, like the brain's real bad at creating agony. It usually becomes ecstasy. So the modality by which energy often articulates upon the fantasy, right? The energetic fantasy that we see that is occurring. And then in the context of the fantasy, energy that could not stomach the energetic reality, right? This is the nature of the wound that a lot of the non-binary energy is carrying, because it's the energy that articulates that the beautiful thing about truly loving a manifestation goal is in the context of experiencing it. It's like you welcome all parts of it, right? It's a lot of bring it on energy. It's a space by which one understands that the difference between healthy relationship is someone that knows the self well, because the ability of knowing the self is the ability to discern between a love for fantasy and an adoration for reality. Because what's cool about reality is a place by which fantasy becomes reality, and the ability to effectively navigate those modalities or experiences, right? The space by which one moves through something or one experiences something, and it's harder, but it's harder, but it's also more real. Like, this is a lot of the energy that I keep on hearing they're looking for fortified partnership. And what is fortified partnership? It's not enough just to articulate a desire for something, so much as one has the energetic resilience that is required to embody it, right? It's a lot of that, like, and it's interesting. It's interesting because I want to point this out. Did you notice the interesting thing that we see that's happening right now in relationality to shields, right? Because masculine is working through the inner child healing that felt like they shielded them from being able to understand things. Feminine is working through the observation, the ridiculousness of someone asking you to shed a shield that you cannot shed unless one feels energetically comfortable to shed it. While non-binary energy is looking for energy that is energetically reliable, right? Heavily shielded from overly experiencing, being overly invested in something fantastic, which is the observation of someone who likes to imagine things, right? Likes to imagine scenarios, but doesn't have the energetic stomach to navigate the energetic reality of circumstances or situations. So we see that that's a lot of the work that's feeling unified across all of the experiences. I'm not surprised to see it. Not surprised to see it with Mars and Venus in Capricorn, while Jupiter is in Cancer in retrograde, and Uranus is in Taurus in retrograde. Now let's move into the unconscious space, moving back to masculine. 3 cards, please. We'll be utilizing the tarot, the Aquarian tarot, for the unconscious of the masculine right now. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, we got another, listen, this is incredible. We've got another 8 of Wands here. So we've got another 8 of Wands coming through in the reversal. So we've got mirroring on the feminines to masculine. 7 of Swords in its reversal. And we've got the 6 of Pentacles in its reversal. So that's some complicated stuff. That's some complicated stuff in the heart, in the unconscious of the masculine. And I gotta tell you, for masculine energy that's going through what I'm seeing in that space, there's no going backward. And there's no reason to go backward. You know? I think there's something really, like, I feel like I see a lot of masculine energy contending or dealing with a lot of regret. And we have to talk about the nature of regret is often the observation. The nature of regret is often the observation in working through something, but not just in the context of energetically working through something. And I keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy, like that ability, and I keep on seeing we work, like when we love each other, we work into the modality of protection. It's the state or space by which we articulate and amplify and work through something in such a way that it allows for the observation of what it is that we are trying to do better, and not just what it is that we're trying to do better. The recognition of working through something in such a way that we're able to energetically articulate upon our own sense of remorse about things is what I keep on hearing. And remorse, like the nature of remorse is often the space by which, and I keep on, and I want to describe this, like for a lot of masculine energy, I almost see those modalities or experiences where one starts to like slip back into unhealthy patterns or slipping back into unhealthy dynamics, right? The modality by which, like, and this is what we talk about, the fact that we recognize ourselves, like when we find ourselves slipping, and then we effectively like we move back into something just as quickly. Our healing, and this is what we keep on hearing, our healing is not a switch, right? Our healing is not a switch. Our healing is amplified by how quickly we catch ourselves as we start to move backwards. Healing comes in many forms. And I see that in some capacity or experience, even that observation, right? That recognition point in being able to ascertain, right? And I don't know why, there's something about this energy right now where it's like some of that energy like working into the expansiveness. And I feel like this is the gift. Like I almost feel like there's some masculine energy right now that is almost having an out of body experience in the modality of being able to see the self and be like, I am about to step right back into, like the modality is saying I'm about to step right back into like the situation that created like energetic conflict in the beginning, right? Like the modality by which we catch ourselves in the moment by which we're energetically about to repeat an unhealthy cycle, right? The modality by which we catch ourselves like about to like fall off that energetic cliff, as it were, in the modality by which we recognize that, and this is what we talk about in relationality to the temptation, like the temptation of karma is often the amplification of the firm belief that something will be different than the way that we left it. But the modality of experiencing things and recognizing what was in our capacity to heal and change versus what was in our capacity to accept around situations. This is often why we sometimes frequently talk about that ability to effectively move forward or move beyond circumstances and situations, because it is the understanding of the energetic lesson by which we are able to refine and protect and refine and heal and energetically ascend. So I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy doing that work, right? It's the space by which we understand. Like I keep on hearing, it's understanding how tempting karma is, right? It's tempting because it's energetically comfortable. It's tempting because it's familiar. But the work that we understand in relationality to understanding, I keep on hearing, we don't move towards things because they are familiar. We move towards things because it's often the context by which we're doing something in a way that we haven't done it before that allows us to understand that we're going through those maturation processes. So I see that for a lot of the energy doing that work, it's not only feeling the energetic frustration of the past, but being fortified in the reminder that what is ahead of us is always better, is like what is ahead of us is the direction of what is for us, right? It's something that is like it's often those modalities or experiences by which we recognize or we feel the sense of time. Now, continuing to get clarification for feminine, and we'll be utilizing the tarot of the divine for feminine energy. 3 cards, please. We've got the Fool card in its upright. We've got the Hierophant in its upright. And we've got the Seven of Cups in its upright. So what are we effectively identifying in relationality? We've got, and this is really interesting for feminine because we've got double Hierophant energy right now in the space of feminine. We've basically got the Hierophant cantilevered in its reversal here, but then we've got the Hierophant in its upright bottom of the deck. I mean, at the bottom, in the bottom placement. So what that effectively speaks to us too is it's feminine working through the modality and the experience of feeling energetically fortified in relationality to the energetic direction. And I keep on hearing it has to do with the force of intention, right? The force of intention. We have to meet intention with a sense of patience and compassion. The observation by which we recognize and identify the work that we set, like the work that we set apart upon in terms of relationship. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the energy that we see here with the Fool card, I want to describe it as a further conversation in relationality to, it's a further conversation in relationality to one's own sense of building into the context of intention. And I keep on getting that for a lot of the feminine right now, like that modality or experience of working through, I keep on hearing working through healthy counterpart energy is, I keep on getting the continuation or observation of how I keep on getting the ability to define to another what one aspires for, but not just what one aspires for, but the ability to effectively articulate, like to have the space by which one is able to dictate to another what one's energetic intentions are. And I feel like there's something really energetically important there, because I almost see that for a lot of the feminine working through those modalities or experiences, it's a continuation of building into productivity, and not just building into productivity, healing from modalities or experiences by which there is an over concentration of working to compare, right? Because it's a continuation that nothing ruins a manifestation more than comparison, right? When you spend all of your time comparing, you will never find a manifestation anywhere. You will literally be in your manifestation. You will be in your manifestation, and you're so busy craning your neck that you won't get to enjoy any of the manifestation, right? Because the manifestation is the act of energetically embodying it. And I feel like that is what's almost happening for a lot of the feminine energy. It's working into some kind of pathwork of energetic resilience, but not just resilience. It's the observation or the understanding of the work that we do to set our energetic intention in relationality or in observation to the things that we energetically care about. And I keep on getting this. Like, I feel like I see a lot of this energy building into the space of their passion. But also, I keep on hearing, it's interesting because every time I read for feminine right now, I'm hearing passion project, right? Which is the observation, like when we have something that sets our heart ablaze, right? Then we are eager to extol upon it. It's something that we love to speak upon. And when we don't have one of those, it becomes really easy to feel adrift in our own experiences. So I feel like there's something about there's something about the feminine that is working through the understanding, like, and it's working through the fury that we experience in relationship. The healthy passion is one that allows for something to be created within it, right? It's not the passion that energetically destroys. Because what happens, right, is when we feel a lot of emotionality and we don't know where to place it, it often can be indicative of the fact that there's something within us that needs to be healed or resolved. And that's often the space by which others feel like we're projecting, like we're projecting all of that passion onto everyone around the self instead of being precious with our passion. And when we're precious with our passion, being precious with our passion means that we effectively know where to put the passion, right? So we feel passion and we put it in the place by which the passion doesn't hurt things. It allows something to be warmed by it. It allows something to grow. So I feel like there's a lot of the energy of the feminine that's doing a lot of work in terms of navigating passion, right? The difference between projecting that passion onto others in the space by which it sometimes creates those modalities by which we hurt one another, and instead working into the space by which another is able to articulate or amplify or effectively grow what it is that they're trying to grow. Now this brings us to the unconscious of non-binary energy. Can I please get 3 cards? And we'll be utilizing for the unconscious of non-binary the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. The Moon card in its upright. The 8 of Cups in its reversal. And the 2 of Wands in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about what we effectively see in relationality to, and this is what's like the non-binary unconscious space right now. Particularly, there's a lot of cups that we see in this experience here. And what we're seeing with a lot of those cups is it's the observation or the understanding of building into the context of working through, I keep on getting working through the sense of the self, but in the space that allows the context of like what we care about or how we feel or our own emotionality to be energetically fortified in terms of, like, I keep on hearing, in terms of embracing the mystery of the self. And this is what's beautiful, I keep on seeing with a lot of this energy. It's not the fact that we can ever know ourselves completely, right? It's never the fact that we can know ourselves completely, but we do the work to understand ourselves as much as possible. Because the more that we're able to understand ourselves, the more that we become an energetic gift for all of those around the self, right? It's the observation, and it was a continuation of what we saw yesterday. When we're doing, what is the result? Like, what is the result of doing our shadow work effectively, right? What is the result of doing our shadow work effectively? Even when we're at our worst, we are at our best, right? Even when we're at our worst, we are at our best, because it's the understanding that when we navigate triggers, when we navigate frustrations, when we navigate those energetic observations that feel like they confound or vex or frustrate us, right? The ability to know the self, even when we delve into the well of ourself, we know what we energetically find there, right? We're never surprised. We're never mortified. We're never shocked, right? It's the understanding of the self in all of its facets, even the ones that come up when we're feeling less than our best, right? when we're feeling energetically frustrated. And that's what I mean in terms of the gift that we become to all of those around the self. Because the modality of knowing the self, never does energy feel safer, right? Never does energy feel safer than with someone who knows the self. Because when we know the self, we know the architecture of ourselves. We know the bounds by which we experience and arrive towards things. And that modality is a blessing, not only to ourselves, but to all of those around us, right? It is the gift that perpetually continues to give. And so I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy in that space, having to do that work, they do so specifically and particularly because they have been hurt. I keep on hearing they haven't even been hurt intentionally by others. They've been hurt by others' non-intention. The clumsiness that we bring in navigating those that we care greatly about, but we have no idea how to hold, right? This is what happens. This is why we have to prepare ourselves for love, right? The state of preparing ourselves for love is so that we don't destroy it when we finally have the opportunity to hold it. Because when you don't know how to navigate your emotions and you find that person who you care about more than anyone, the surge of energy that you will feel will either break you or it will or it will create you, right? It is the modality by which you will fall apart or you will come together in a way that you never have dreamt before. And the observation of being able to do so rests heavily on how well one knows the self, because the ability to feel something you haven't felt before, right? And not fall apart in the modality of feeling it, that is the amplification of what it feels like when we find love. So I see that that's a lot of the energy. That's what I meant in terms of healing by way or by means of energetic proximity, right? The space by which another recognizes or identifies the experience of healing is one by which they work upon their heart space and they build into the context of those who are allowed to hold them, because it's the modality by which we build those healthy boundaries is the amplification and the articulation of how another person energetically feels towards us. And it's a modality by which when another person has a lot of feelings, but they haven't done the work in navigating the feelings effectively, sometimes what we experience with those feelings doesn't feel positive. And it's nothing's more painful than when you're experiencing a modality by which another person cares about you, but the only way that they can convey the way that they care about you is by energetically hurting you. Like that is the sound of trauma occurring. That's the sound of the energetic projection. So I see that that's a lot of the energy that builds upon their empathy, right? They don't allow those experiences to change them. But even in the ability to have to carry that, it requires them to build into relationship with a deeper sense of care or caution, right? There's a lot, I keep on hearing, there's a lot of that delicacy that they bring to situations, and this is the reason why. Bottom of the deck on this reading, beginning first with masculine, bottom of the deck, utilizing the Smith-Waite system, Queen of Wands in its upright. So I feel like for a lot of the energy working through right now, masculine, this is masculine trying to heal their relationship to feminine, right? You cannot be afraid of something that you desire to love. You cannot be afraid of something that you desire to love. And this is why I feel like this is the mentality of, this is the energy of masculine that's working on the space of bravery. And I keep on hearing, not bravery, not trying to show, right? Not trying to show feminine, that they are not afraid of anything. Because what often happens in the modality by which we try to show feminine that we're not afraid of anything, right? Do you realize that? Do you realize that what are you trying to do when you try to show someone that you're not afraid of anything? You tell on yourself, you go, I'm not afraid of you. But you don't have to say I'm not afraid of you to someone that you're afraid of. Like it's like right? Like, do you understand when you say to someone, I'm not afraid of you, you are clearly afraid, or we wouldn't be having the conversation, right? Like it's a modality that even in the space by which we understand the show of strength that we often feel that we have to have, that we want to do instead of having a vulnerable conversation, often shows others how terrified we are of our emotions, right? It's the difference between the performative bravery that is required to have a vulnerable conversation versus a show of strength, right? Versus a show of force. So I see that that's a lot of the masculine that is working to try to connect more deeply with the feminine. Because when you come towards someone, right? When you come towards someone and you build into the context of trying to show someone like, look how not afraid of you I am, that's not the grounds of a healthy relationship, right? That's often the issue, right? The modality by which we work through the space by which that shouldn't even be like that is old. Those are old wounds, right? That are rising up in the context of the present experience. And so I see that that's a lot of the masculine that's working through the space of understanding that feminine is not separate from masculine. Feminine is part of masculine. And the modality by which the masculine embraces that aspect of feminine within them often builds into the context of not feeling that when they find those qualities and characteristics within the self, they feel that sense or that space of being reviled, right? Because why would you feel energetically reviled from something that you feel drawn or attracted towards, right? It's the understanding of what it means to build into healthy energy that starts within the self in relationality to how we feel about counterpart connection. For feminine energy, bottom of the deck right now, utilizing the Tarot of the Divine, Ace of Cups. A lot of ace cards right now in the space of the feminine. So this is the feminine that works upon the gift that we bring to relationship is a love of the self. If you don't love the self, there is no relationship you will ever find love in. You will pass by love on the street. People will leave love everywhere you go. But if you're in the modality by which you're not loving yourself, you can't see love all around you. And further, the modality by which we work through the unbelievability of the experience of receiving it is often working on the space by which we work towards the sense of love for the self. And that sense of love for the self is not self-centered so long as it's reciprocal. So long as there's not something we're giving ourselves that we wouldn't eagerly give another person. It's not self-centered to be centered in self. It's, in fact, the more that we're able to build into the kindness and compassion we have for ourselves, the easier it is to recognize when we feel like our standards are not being energetically held properly, and allows for the space of conversation. It allows the space of compassion, because a lot of the cards that we see right now for feminine is understanding the careful territory of making sure that we always assess our standards. Because our standards are always able to be spoken to. If we don't feel like our standards are met, a good way to be able to fortify whether they are our standards is to have a conversation about them. Because the modality by which you feel like you have a standard, but you don't feel comfortable talking about it, you've just identified your trauma in disguise, masquerading as a standard. This brings us to non-binary energy, bottom of the deck. Oh, man. So we've got the Chariot energy in its reversal. And this has a lot to do with the energy that is working through the context of the desire to connect, but the fear of doing so, right? This is energy that often feels the desire to want to energetically connect with others. But all of this trauma that I've been articulating that they're going through, all of those modalities of trying to assess what is safe to hold, is the amplification of understanding the volume of feelings that they've experienced in the past, and further potentially having those experiences where the issue was not a lack of love, but too much love from someone that had not done the work to hold their love effectively. Because the modality by which you can experience somebody, and this is often energy that can often feel like they move away from situations, and someone says, I've never felt like anything like I ever felt with you, right? This is the sad song that I feel like a lot of this energy hears as they continue through their experiences. Because when somebody makes us feel something that we've never felt before, we answer the call within ourselves, right? We rise up to meet that by becoming the person that we aspire to be. Or it creates that moment by which it feels like everything is energetically falling apart around the self. So I keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy, that observation of having to have gone through experiences by which they know, like I almost feel like it's the energy that knows someone that holds an apology for them, but not even the context by which they'll approach, because it's a modality that one understands that the volume, when you see somebody who holds or contains a volume of emotions, but instead of communicating it, utilizes it in ways that feel like they only hurt us, it often creates those modalities by which we articulate, like we articulate and amplify our sense of care, but our care that does not allow for the conscientious point of energetic proximity. It's the observation of what we recognize as healthy. And that's what I keep on seeing in relationality to that energy, working through the context of not having been changed by something, but being perpetually changed by it. Because I see this energy that articulates and says they don't forget about anything, right? They don't let go of anything. This is the work we do, not to, like, this is the work we do to not allow things to change us, right? It's not about letting go. It's about growing large. It's expanding and expounding upon it. It's understanding it in a way that becomes its own sense of profoundness. And so I see that for a lot of that energy, there's delicacy, but I keep on seeing the healthy counterpart understands the nature by which the energy treads. That is where we find all of the energy. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who participated in our recent class on the judgment card. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, January 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the World card. If you'd like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack, become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our classes each and every month. If you become a monthly subscriber, you'll have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. If you become a founding, you'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you'll also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, where I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage moving towards your tarot goals going forward. You'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. It's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you an update on everything we've studied thus far. The material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. And I also would like to let you guys know that even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also have access to my Mystic Meditation articles, which give you updates on everything we've been studying, everything we've been seeing in the cards. I just wrote one recently on this new moon that we just navigated. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my students that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey I'm also very happy now to offer dream interpretation readings, which you can purchase per dream or as a series. If you purchase a series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I would also like you to take the opportunity to head over to my Stack to learn more about a very special retreat that we'll be hosting this August. I'd like to invite you to join me August 8th through 13th, where we will be exploring and learning more about the tarot in the locationality by which the tarot was first discovered. Please join me on a retreat where we'll be traveling to Tuscany, Rome, and Florence. And not only will we be studying and practicing our tarot skills there, but we'll also be understanding deeper the culture by which the tarot was able to find a foothold to grow and thrive. You'll find all of that information over on my Stack. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.